Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new recent reads video. If I'm being completely honest with you, April so far has not been as fruitful as a reading month as March was, but it's only in the middle of April, so maybe I should lower my expectations. Anyway, the first book on this list is called Blood Like Magic. This book is a YA urban fantasy that I rated 5 stars, and it follows a young girl who must sacrifice her first love to save her family's magic. Except the problem is that she's never fallen in love before. So that's fun and dandy. Anyway, this book was so good, and it was absolutely so amazing, and like I mentioned, I rated it 5 stars, which means that I loved every single second of it, and it made me tear up at least twice. Also, I apologize in advance for all the background noise. I'm aware of it, but I can't do anything about it, which is why I haven't exactly fixed it, because first of all, I don't have any money to do that, and second of all, if I filmed inside, it would be even worse. So anyway, with that said, I can't really do anything about it. But anyway, like I mentioned, Blood Like Magic was so good. Urban fantasy is typically my least favorite subgenre of fantasy, but this book was so awesome. The world building was so vivid and it was so great. The technology and the magic system were incorporated so well. Technically, this book is a bit of like a science fiction because it's technically set in the future. Not like far in the future necessarily, but about like 10 or 15 years from now, I think. Maybe more than that. But anyway, this book is so good and it was so awesome. The world building was so vivid. The characters were so well developed and so distinct. The family dynamic was so authentic. The plot was so engaging and so lovely. The romance was so awesome and so cute. And this book is so awesome. Anyway, with all that said, basically I rated this book 5 stars because I loved it. And essentially this book was everything that I wanted Legendborn to be. If you didn't know, that book was a big disappointment to me when I read it last year. But anyway, I'm so excited to read the sequel to this book, which I believe comes out in August, and I would definitely highly recommend this book. The next book on this list is called Karthik Delivers. This book is a middle-grade contemporary following a young boy who's helping making deliveries for his family's struggling grocery store while secretly acting in a play about the creator of West Side Story, and I believe it's set during the financial crisis of about 2008 or 2009, or maybe even 2007 or 6. But anyway, this book is so good. I ended up rating it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. First of all, the plot was so engaging and it was absolutely so intriguing, and I had no idea what would happen next. Second of all, the world building was so well done and it was absolutely so vivid. Third of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. Fourth of all, the family dynamic and all of the platonic friendships were so authentic and so well done. This story hooked me from the very beginning to the end, and I will gladly read more from this author in the future because this book was so good, because it was so wholesome and it was so sweet, and I had so much hope and care for all of the characters and all of the events, and I was so invested in the story. So anyway, with all that said, I rated this book 4 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Blaine For The Win. This book is a YA contemporary and it follows a young boy who's trying to become more serious by running for senior class president because his boyfriend recently dumped him to pursue more serious guys. So he's trying to prove to himself and to his now ex-boyfriend that he can be more serious. I hope that makes sense, but basically this book is so good. I rated it 4 stars to my surprise because I really enjoyed it. I had really low expectations for this book because I rated the author's previous book, The Sky Blues, 3 stars last year because The Sky Blues, while it was good and it was cute and it was okay, it's just not very memorable. Like, I don't remember anything that happens in that book at all. So I was expecting to rate this book 3 stars, but I ended up rating it 4 stars because it was so good, and it was so wholesome, and it was really sweet, and it was really fluffy, and I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely highly recommend it, and here's why. First of all, the plot was so intriguing, and it was absolutely so interesting, and so engaging. Second of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. Third of all, the friendships and the family dynamic were so wholesome and so lovely and so fluffy. Fourth of all, the romance was so cute and it was so well developed, although I kind of felt like the election overshadowed the romance, which I understand because the election is the main plot of the story, but I wish that there was more romantic development. But I expected that because, again, that's something that happened in the Sky Blues, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, the Sky Blues wasn't super memorable. But anyway, with all that said, I rated this book 4 stars. I will gladly read more from this author in the future, and I will definitely highly, highly recommend this book. The next book on this list is called Cold the Night, Fast the Wolves. This book is a YA science fiction story following a young girl on an icy planet and how she must flee with her prize-fighting wolf across a tundra after angering a local gangster. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if it does. But anyway, this book was so good. I had really low expectations for it because honestly, the first time I tried to read this book, I DNF'd it. But like Blood Like Magic, the second time I read it, it was really good. Anyway, the world building was so awesome and it was so immersive and it was absolutely so vivid. I don't reach for science fiction that often because the technology in the world building tends to become too convoluted as I continue to read it, but in this story, it became more cohesive as the story went on, which I really, really appreciated. The plot as well was so engaging and it was absolutely so intriguing. The characters and the friendship group dynamic was so wonderful, and I also appreciated that the story had a lack of romance in it. You know what I mean? Like, romance is not necessary to make a book good, and this book proved that. This book was absolutely so awesome, and I really, really enjoyed it. The characters were so well developed and so distinct. I would gladly read more from this author in the future because this book was so good. It was absolutely so underrated, and it deserves so much more hype. So anyway, with all that said, I rated this book 4 stars, and I would highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and certainly not the least, is called Call the Crow. For those who don't know, this book is a middle-grade fantasy sequel to Skyborn, and it's the second book in the Skyborn trilogy, and I'm so excited to read the third book now. I'm more excited to read the third book now than I used to before I read this book, if that makes any sense. I rated this book 4 stars, the same rating that I gave the first book, because this book was a really, really solid sequel. I really, really appreciated how the author expanded upon her already creative and unique world building and her already well-developed characters. The characters are truly the heart of her stories because they're so well-developed and they're so distinct, and I feel like so authentic, and I love the friendships that she has developed because they're so wholesome and they're so sweet, and the world building continues to be so unique and so creative and absolutely so inventive. This book is so awesome, and like I mentioned, I'm so excited to read the third book so much more than I was before. Although if I had to choose, I will say that I preferred the first book over this one, but they're both really, really good. Anyway, the third book in the series comes out in August, and I'm so excited. Anyway, with all that said, I rated this book 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it, and I would definitely highly, highly recommend this series. So, in conclusion, my favorite book on this list was definitely Blood Like Magic because it's a new 5-star favorite, but I rated the rest of the books on this list 4 stars, so honestly, I can't choose a favorite between the 4 of them. So anyway, in conclusion, I would definitely highly recommend all the books on this list because they're all really, really good, and maybe I should change my mind about April not being a fruitful reading month because the quality of the books I read is far more important than the quantity of the books I read, which is what I was thinking of when I started this video. But anyway, the point is, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the elephant emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!